Hi, so this is just a short session talking about the roles and responsibilities, the role players within the project environment. But what I like about what we're going to talk about is not just an isolation to the project environment or the project organization. It's the integration between the organization, the company, the business, and the project organization that you are working in. So remember, you always have projects that sits within organizations. So there's functional responsibilities, there's operational responsibilities that's going on in the organization, and you need to have an integrated project responsibilities within that. So we've got two functions, or we've got two organizations within one. We've got the functional organization of the company, and then we've got the project organization. So what you will see if you look at this diagram over here, you'll see there's an integration between, or there's two sides, the blue side and the yellow side. The blue side represents the functional environment or the business as usual. The yellow side represents the project management organization. So let's just first focus on the company itself, or the functional organization. At the top, we always have a top manager or CEO. It could be, if you're in America, you can call it the president or the managing director. That's the top person in the organization looking after the organization strategically. So the main focus for the top manager is to make sure that the organization is executing strategy in the long run. So getting closer to its vision. It's a strategic role, it's a high level role, it's someone that needs to know what's going on, not just in the inside of the organization, but also knows what goes on in the external to the organization. So we are talking about someone who's in touch with their company, but also who's in touch with what's going on in the market and the industry they're working in. So that is the top manager, high level person. Then one level down, we've got the ExCo members. Now ExCo is represented in a meeting. Remember, ExCo Executive Committee, it's a high-level strategic meeting, but with one leg functionally involved in the organization as well. Normally, not always, but normally ExCo is represented by the line managers or the department heads within the organization. So that means there's 5 or 6 people sitting on an ExCo, and they might be the head of department of HR or marketing or IT or engineering or operations or whatever. So what happens is it's a high-level strategic meeting, and they're assisting top management making decisions around the company. Remember, this is still fairly strategic, high-level discussions that goes on in these meetings. So they represent their functions on an ExCo meeting to assist top management to make the right decisions in the long run for the organization. So the way it works, and I don't know if you've also felt this, but when an ExCo meeting is coming on, you have this buzz around the office. So lower level employees and middle management have to get information correct for the ExCo meeting. So that's in the form of data or tables or graphs or information that comes from the organization, from the different legs within the organization. It flows through the company upwards. It goes to the line managers, and they go represent themselves with their data and information on an ExCo, which is then decide upon certain policies or certain output as a result of the ExCo meeting. So that's a nice way to look at how information flows from the bottom of an organization to the top and down again. Good. And then if you go down one level, we get to the functional or the line managers. Now remember, we said they are probably not all of them will sit on an ExCo, so they will represent the organization on a strategic level as well. But they've got a functional role to play as well. And their role is to look after the organization, look after their departments in which they work in. So if you are the head of department civil engineering, it means you are the head of civil engineering, and you need to look after your resources in your organization functionally for that. We've got a slide that says they are the custodians of the functional expertise. And that's a very good line for me, because they look after the organization, but only in their department that they are working in. Good. And then if you go down one level, you get to the employees, or down the levels. So what I always say is, the lower you go into organizational breakdown structure, you the closer you get to the people who's directly adding value to what you are sell or produce in the organization. So these are the producers. These are the people that with output add value to the organization, which can be sold and which can make profit for the organization. Good. So that is the blue side, the organizational side. Now let's look at the yellow side, the project side, and let's see how they are integrated in the organization. So at the top level, we don't have. Can you see we don't have a equivalent person or role for the project environment? Why is that? The reason for that is because, and let's just step back a bit. What was the main function, the main focus of the top manager? The main function of the top manager is strategic direction for the organization. Now, in projects, we talk about a business case. Now, a business case is the strategic reason for a project or the problem statement for a project. So it is, why do we need this project which is linked to my strategy? And now look how nice this is fitting together, because you don't have two roles. It's the same role. You've got your CEO, your top manager, driving strategy in the organization, but also we just said that strategy is linked to projects or the originating of projects, and that's why it sits over there, because they are linked to each other. So have you ever heard this in an organization where the company goes and they get a new CEO and they put a stop or a block or a pause on all projects that's going on? Now that's the reason, because the new CEO might have a fairly different, let's call it strategic direction, strategic outlook on the organization. So they put all the projects on hold because strategically you need to do the right project, and that's where your business case comes in. So it's the same role player, same person, top management. Good. Now if we go down one level, we get the steercom or the project steercom. Now there's two types of project steercom. You get, number one, it could be let's say you are working in a fairly big organization, and you've got quite a lot of large scale important projects running in the organization. So project management or big projects plays a big role in your organization. Then your steercom might be like a sort of a fixed committee, which is normally represented by different project sponsors in the organization or other high level people in the company. And they sit together and they, in the same way, and that's what I like about this this image over here, or this diagram, is that the levels, obviously it's just a diagram, but the levels in which I represent them also tells me something. Because the steercom happens on the same level as an exco. So what I'm saying is it is high level people within the organization adding value, but now not for the project in the functions they represent, but in the projects that is represented or that is running in the company. So what will happen is there will probably sit about 5 or 6 or 10 or how many project sponsors, high level people in the organization that sit on a project steercom, and they will discuss the projects that's going on in the organization. But the other side could also be, let's say you've got a strange or a special project or a big project or something that you don't often do. You could also sort of set up a project steercom for that specific project, which you can then choose from either within the organization or outside. You get specialists who you need special input, and they assist you with making decisions, high level decisions again, around the projects. Remember, the steercom is the link again between top management and the organization, top management and the project. So you must see that on that level. It's those kind of assistance, it's those kind of support that the project steercom gives the organization as well as the project environment. Good. Now if you go down one level, you get the project sponsors. Now remember, a project sponsor is again the same representation as you have between the line managers or the department heads and the exco members, the same type of, let's call it, relationship you might have in the steercom and the project sponsors or a project sponsor. So it means that a project sponsor might be on a steercom for a different project as well. Good, but what is a project sponsor? A project sponsor is the owner of the project. So that is very, very important to know that. The owner of the project. He is accountable for the delivery of the success of the project. So that person sits there, it is his or her project that's running. It's taking high-level responsibility, because remember, look at where they sit. They might even be line managers, high-level organizational representation over there, and they sit on the steercom, or they are part of the steercom. They are the project sponsor, which then sits and might even sit with the top management in those big kind of projects that you have. So they are, the PMI talks about, they are representing the company in cash and kind. So the resources, approval on the resources on their level, making sure that the company needs the project and that the company gets the right project. Also called the project owner, or the client, no? The client of the project. Good. Now, if you go down one level from that, you get what we call the project manager. Now, a project manager has got a lot of stuff to talk about. So I'm not going to talk about everything. I might just do a different session on just the project manager. But in short, the project manager is the enabler of the project. That's the person that have to make sure that everybody plays its role so that the project can be a success. So that's the person sitting with the nuts and the bolts, working with the budgets, working with the schedule, making sure the scope is correct and that the scope and the quality is executed correctly, and delivering the project successfully. That is the he or she sits right in the middle of the project, understanding and knowing each little thing that goes on in the project. So, okay, let's just pause that for a second. Let's just quickly go for the project team, and then we'll talk about the relationship quickly. The project below the project manager, or integrated with the project manager, is what we call the project team. Now remember, in the same way as you say in organization, the lower you go into the organizational breakdown structure, the more closely you are working with the people adding direct value to the organization or to the product that you are selling. In the same way, you can say the lower you go into the let's say the project organizational structure or the project team, the more directly you are adding value to the project deliverables. Now again, there's two sides to that. You get a project team who helps the project manager to run the project, but you can also see your project, your resources as a project team. Now, it's the people adding value to what you are going to deliver as the project at the end of the day. Good. So there's just a few things we need to see. When we talk about the project manager sits right in the middle of everything. So it's interesting to see that there are equivalent role players in all of these roles. Let's say if you compare it from the project side and the business side, except for the project manager's role. Why is that? The reason for that is because if you have someone like this who sits in the organization side, it's going to be crazy. That's that one person who knows everything always about, now not the project, but now the organization. So that is why we have a very functional structure, or functional structures within the organization, is that you can report upwards and delegate downwards. In projects, we don't have that side of sort of structure because you are reporting across the lines, cross-functional. That's what we say. One of the key things about project management and a project manager, you operate cross-functional. So that is the reason for not having a, let's call it, an equivalent role over there. Then the last thing that we must just quickly talk about is that we need to understand the involvement of the project sponsor and the project manager over time. So to do that, we need to quickly go back to the definition of a project, or the characteristics of a project. The characteristics of a project says you've got a start and you've got an end. So then by definition, you can say both of these roles are not permanent roles. It means you're not a project sponsor forever, because the project doesn't run forever. And remember, if you're a project manager and the project sponsor is the owner of what? Of a project which is going to be finished at some certain stage. If you're a project manager, you're going to manage or run the project until the project's delivered, which is got a specific deadline in time. So these are all not permanent positions, or not permanent, let's call it, roles. Although, remember, if you're a full-time project manager, you'll probably run between projects. You probably have one or two projects running at the same time, which means you can be fairly full-time busy with those. Good. So I hope this helps. it's just a nice visual representation, not only on the levels of project management and the roles that they play in the organization as well in the project organization, but also to see how they interlink with each other and how they add value then to the project, which ultimately add value to the organization.